Bottom of the third at Miller Park. Braves and Brewers tied at 4 as we are now joined up in the broadcast booth by General Manager David Stearns. We'll get to Eric Thames in a moment. You know that's coming.
I'm sure we will.
But what, this has been a competitive first month. I mean, you're sitting here a game above 500. We know what the last 2 years were like in April. What, besides the obvious of Thames, what has encouraged you the most about this club so far?
Really, I think you look at the depth of our lineup. 1 to 9 every given night. The depth we have on our bench gives Craig a lot of options on how he wants to make out the lineup card every single day, how he wants to use matchups throughout the game, and we've seen that. We've scored a lot of runs. I think we're second or third in baseball in runs scored, and we're looking forward to that continue. Obviously, that helps. It gives our pitchers a cushion, helps relax the team in general when we're scoring early like we've been, and it's a good thing to continue.
Ryan Braun leading off the bottom of the third with a base hit. Already the Brewers with 6 hits in the game.
Everybody's talking about the offense, David, with Thames. Ryan Braun. Nobody really talking about Braun. He's having a terrific start, to his season. But I think your pitching has been very good. Your starting pitching as a group, the guys have been doing a pretty good job, and the bullpen has been very effective.
Yeah, as a unit, they've done a really nice job of picking each other up. When you think about, we lost our opening day starter, Junior Guerra, 3 innings into the season. That's a tough blow for any team to overcome. And then we lost Matt Garza the last week of the season to the groin strain. He's now back. Tommy Malone did a really nice job when he had to step in the rotation, and now he's doing a nice job in the bullpen. So as a unit, I think those guys are working really well together. We've asked a lot of our bullpen earlier this year. We're using those guys a lot. We're stacking on a lot of innings night after night on those guys, and they've responded well. They
seem to figure it out back there. And I mean, last year at this time it was Blazek, Thornburg, Jeffress, and now it's you got Barnes, you got Knebel and Feliz. I don't know if it's a culture that they've got going on. They just seem to find a way, don't they?
It's probably a combination of a really nice culture that we have down there, and that's started by Lee Tunnell, and some really talented arms. Jacob Barnes, Corey Knebel, Neftali Feliz, those guys are really talented. They've got electric arms. They've each taken a step forward either this year or last year in terms of Feliz, and so they've created a nice 7th, 8th, 9th inning combination for us that for the most part has secured wins when we're leading late in the game.
And one of the things that has been a nice surprise, and it was kind of a wild card for you in spring training, your catching combo. Jet Bandy, Manny Pena, these guys have been terrific so far. Did you see this coming?
I think it's tough to. I think it's tough to say that we saw exactly this level of offensive production coming, but we were confident that those guys, and I'll put Susac in that combination as well because he came into spring training in the mix. But I think we were confident that together those guys could offer a really productive catching core. So far they've been able to do that on both sides of the ball, and I don't know that we can quite expect this level of offensive production to continue throughout the season, but we'll certainly ride it while we have it.
It's not just that, though. I mean, I think their throwing arms have been terrific.
Yep.
I mean, I think the word is out that you don't get big leads on the Brewers catching core, and that certainly helps your defense.
It really does. It helps the pitchers. It gives the pitchers one less thing they have to worry about. Our catchers have done a tremendous job controlling the running game really on their own. Manny Pena's done a wonderful job making sure guys don't get too comfortable on their secondary leads. We've seen that a couple times already this year, and you're right, the word gets around the league. Scouting reports will indicate that, and opposing base runners are going to adjust their leads accordingly.
All right, now the Thames question. I don't know if you thought 11 home runs out of the gate, but you've known of him for a while. Was there a maturity about him? If it's being in Korea, maybe now just being 30, that helps as Perez shoots one into the gap, and he's going to have himself a 2-out double here in the third. But as you struck up conversations with him, David, was there just something about his demeanor off the field, how he handles himself, that besides the obvious of his talent, the other part that impressed you?
He's very self-aware. He understands himself. He understands where he's come from, how he's gotten to where he is now. And I think he's more than anything else very comfortable in his own skin. He's comfortable with how he approaches the game. And that's shown, really. He's the same guy on opening day that he is now, despite all the success he's had. He prepares the exact same way. He goes through his routine. He's very dedicated to his routine. He knows what it is. And a lot of that is learned for him. He didn't have that when he was here the first time in the Blue Jays organization and then bouncing around the major leagues. And he picked that up in Korea. He believes in it, and it's worked very well for him.
2 outs. Hernan Perez, the runner at second. Brewers general manager David Stearns joining us here in the booth.
41 home runs in the first month. I mean, that's something that's incredible when you think about it. This is, you know, we don't want to call it a rebuilding mode, but you guys are in the transition mode. The offense has been tremendous. 41 home runs, pretty well spread out.
It really is, and we saw that earlier this game where we've been able to get power up and down the lineup, 1 through 8 in our lineup really, which is encouraging. And obviously it's led by Thames, and Brawny's done a really nice job. Travis Shaw got off to a really hot start and hit some home runs earlier in the year, and I think that will continue. I think we're going to have a lineup that is going to score a lot of runs. I think we're going to have a lineup that's going to put up home runs. Whether it's quite at this clip, we'll see, but it's an exciting way to put up runs. It's clearly fun for the team, and we'll certainly enjoy watching it.
We have a number of guys, David, in the minor leagues, really at every level, who are off to good starts. You think of the outfield at Colorado Springs. I know Josh Hader got touched up a little bit in his last outing, but you want to see the big samples or bigger sample size. Is that fair to say out of a lot of these young guys?
I think it's individual to player. We have to look at each individual player's development, determine what's best for that individual player. In general, there's a certain base level of production and a base level of time that we want to see at each level. We don't set rules across the organization. We don't say you need X plate appearances until you get promoted, but in general, we want these guys to experience every level. There are challenges at every level. Pitchers do different things at every level, and so we think it's important that some of our top prospects really mature as they move up the system. And then once we think they've reached that critical mass of development and they're ready to be promoted, then it comes down to a major league need. And when those two things converge and we're ready to call someone up, and that person is ready to be called up, they'll certainly be here.
Runner goes, pitch is taken, and Perez has third.
Pretty risky move right there. Stealing third base with 2 outs.
And so Brian Snitker, see if he wants to challenge this here.
Well, you take off because the third baseman's so far off the bag, and it's going to be pretty close. Question is, where's the tag applied?
I think every time I'm up here with a close replay or something like that. Last year,
right.
I think B.A. Rock and I were up here for 20 minutes during a lengthy review.
I've got to ask, I mean, there's always in your role a big picture that you have to look at, but you know, we see it with managers. With Craig, you probably wear every loss and it gets tough, but you know that there's a big picture from your chair. I mean, every pitch, are you riding your own version of a roller coaster emotionally, or can you afford to do that?
I think we try to avoid doing that every pitch. There are 162 games, and if we ride the pitch, the roller coaster every single pitch, we're going to be in trouble, and we're probably not going to be very healthy. So, you know, we enjoy the wins, and the losses hurt, and they should. And that's ultimately why we all get into this game, because we enjoy that competition. We all are very competitive people. And obviously the goal is to win as much as possible, and when we do that, we're all going to be pretty happy people walking around here.
Just know we're riding a roller coaster for you.
Yeah, we have
every pitch.
Absolutely.
That's why
we don't miss Eddie.
You have the ups and downs. Full count to Jet Bandy with Hernan Perez, the runner at third. And the inning will continue as Bandy draws a walk.
Give us a sense, David, your assessment of Orlando Arcia so far. Really starting to swing the bat, going to right field with some power, but even when he wasn't really hitting a whole lot, the defense was there. That's the key, though, right?
The defense is incredibly stable, and we've seen him make the routine play. We've seen him make the elite play. I'm not sure there's really anything at that position that he can't do, and that he hasn't shown us in a very short amount of time at the major league level. Offensively, we're beginning to see that progression. Obviously, we've seen the opposite field power. It's encouraging to us that he's using the whole field, that he's comfortable taking that outside fastball the other way. We've seen that a couple of times this homestand already. And so that's part of the progression. We know that the offensive game is behind the defensive game. He knows that. He's working hard at that, and it's going to take some time. And every player develops individual parts of their game at a different pace. For Orlando, the defensive side of the game has always come a little bit easier than the offensive side of the game. He's an extremely athletic, competitive person, and my bet is that he's going to figure out the offensive side of the game as well.
Yeah, you see him a lot differently than we do. You see him on a personal level, but it doesn't really seem that the offensive struggles really get into his head too much.
No, I think he's a pretty confident individual. I'm not sure I'm not sure anything gets into Orlando's head too much. I think he believes he can compete at this level. And he's certainly shown defensively that he can, and we've seen flashes of that on the offensive side of the ball as well.
Seeing some flashes here of late from Keon Broxton, including tonight, a run-scoring double in the second inning. Malone ready with a one-strike pitch. Keon, such a great story last year up into the injury, obviously, that ended his year, but the major adjustment, or the significant adjustment he made at the plate. And you mentioned, David, in spring training to BA and Rock, failure prompted it, but he had to trust the process. I mean, it was not a tweak. It was a significant change. Right?
Significant change, and it doesn't happen overnight. You have to think about the change, become convicted in the change, make the change work at it, and then be okay that you may not get the results immediately.
That's a tough thing to do.
It really is.
I mean, you're in the heat of the battle.
No
I
question.
mean, as a former player, I mean, you go back to what's natural to you when things aren't going well, but he stuck with it.
He did, and he was convicted in the process. He did really a wonderful job with it, and obviously we saw the results follow in a fairly impactful way. He was one of the best outfielders in baseball for that 6-7 week stretch, and we're seeing signs of that returning this year early.
Jet Bandy was running on the last pitch that was fouled back. 2 strikes and nothing to Broxton. Hernan Perez, the runner, at third. Bandy running again, and he'll have it uncontested.
Does that surprise you? Jet taking off? He's not the fastest guy on the team.
Yeah, he is not the fastest guy on the team, and I don't think he'd win too many races against anyone out there right now.
Trying to steal a run.
He and Bartolo would be an interesting race down the line.
Braves didn't take the bait. Maybe Perez had an idea, but no throw. Broxton a swing and a miss, and the inning is over. Well, David, thank you very much. Congrats on a great start.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks, David. Appreciate it, man.